Welcome to the walled garden. I'm so glad you're here. Pull up a comfy seat, settle in, and let's go on a little adventure. Today, we're going to take a look at what you're releasing, either what you're already in the process of releasing, or maybe what you need to be releasing. And this is inspired with or by working with the moon cycles. Right now, at the time of filming, it is a waning moon. And that is about letting go, releasing. If we think of a garden metaphor, it's trimming, it's clearing, it's getting rid of what's dead or overgrown or just not useful anymore. When it comes to moon things, everybody loves a full moon. It is manifestation and power and things coming into fruition, and that's great. But the thing about full moons is, in order to receive, in order to bring those things in, whether those are whatever abundance, people, situations, you first have to make room for them. And so I think that's the magic of the waning moon. Like gardening, it's maybe a little bit less sexy than the harvesting, but it is a very critical piece to having the outcome, the output that you want. So that's what we're going to look at today. Regardless of whether you're actually working with a waning moon cycle or just ready to let some things go, we're going to take a look at what that might be. So, a little breakdown of the reading. First, we're going to look at what you're releasing right now. So, sorry, the cat has decided that this is her moment. So first, we're going to look at what you're releasing right now. And then we're going to take a look at what is your energy toward this. We can have a lot of different attitudes when it comes to releasing things. Sometimes it can be a relief, it can be cathartic. Sometimes we can be really sad. Releasing, letting go, loss can be hard. We can be a little bit pouty, like a kid throwing a tantrum. We can be resistant. So just to get a beat on your relationship to whatever this is that you need to let go of. Then we're going to look at what might be stuck or interfering with your letting go process. So again, if we go back to the garden metaphor, it's like brambles or thorns. What is like tangling up this letting go or releasing process and making it maybe not as smooth as it could be? Because we're humans, and generally speaking, we don't like change. We don't like letting go of things. So whether it's conscious or subconscious, there's usually some degree of obstacle between us and letting go. So we're going to take a look at what that is. Then we're going to see what tools, guides, energies you can turn to for support. In our modern day, especially in more Western cultures, we are cultured to be really independent. We have to do everything ourselves. We have to figure it out ourselves. We've got to solve it ourselves. And that's just not how humans were wired to be. It doesn't always need to be that hard. So we're going to see what is available and what might serve as good support for you as you work on this letting go process. And then finally, because everybody wants to know the outcome, we're going to take a look at what this could be making room for. So unfortunately, to everyone's chagrin, the universe does not work like a vending machine. We don't get to just put in our orders or get a clear directive of what exactly is coming and when. But that doesn't mean we can't get a feel for what some of the possibilities might be, to get a little bit excited about what sometimes can be messy or a little bit uncomfortable work of letting go. All right, so we're going to be using tarot, and then I'm a sucker for an oracle. Bless the people that can do just straight tarot or simple pulls. I am not them. So we've got 4 oracle decks that we're going to be using today. One of them is brand new. I only got it today. I shuffled it a bit and had a brief flip through, but that's it. So I'm really excited to see what comes out of that one. And then just a quick note about how these readings go. So in addition to just using my intuition, what visual cues come up from the cards, the way that spirit works with me is also through words. So I use the books pretty heavily, not necessarily because I don't know the meanings of the cards, so the oracles can be nuanced. It's more about looking for specific wordplay that triggers intuition and patterns and things. So we'll be taking a little bit of a look at some of the guidebooks as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first we're going to start with the juicy bit. Well, I guess it's all juicy, but what are you working on releasing right now? So this could be something you're actively working on releasing. If you're somebody that does a lot of self-work or shadow work, you might be trying to let go of some things. If you've recently been through a breakup or a loss or, parted ways with a friend, a job, whatever, you might have something you're actively trying to let go of. But this could also be a moment where there's an opportunity for something you didn't realize you needed to let go of. So we're gonna make room for all those possibilities. Before I get there, I was so excited to get started. I forgot to take a beat. I already did my meditation beforehand, but let's take a second to call the gang in before we get started. So take a deep breath. Whether you've had a long day or not, a long week. When I'm filming this, it is a Friday evening, and it has been a week, I tell you. So I am realizing that I'm a little bit hunched over, and my jaw is tight, and a lot of things are tight. So I'm just gonna sit up and release my shoulders and take a deep breath. And I invite you to do the same. We underestimate breathing, and we don't always realize how much we're not doing it. So this is a great opportunity to warm up that letting go muscle. Let that breath go. Let the day go. Whatever happened just before this, whatever it is, let it go. And then let's call in some support. So spirit, generally. I also have called in my benevolent ancestors and spirit guides that I work with. Those include family members that have passed on. Mother Mary is my girl. So is Saint Hildegard. If you don't know about her, stick around. You'll hear quite a bit about her. But I'd also like to invite you to call in whatever benevolent entities you're working with. So those could be ancestors, spirit guides, deceased pets, animals, elements of nature, whoever you're working with that has your best and highest good in mind. And again, I stress benevolent. We're not working with the devil, any of those darker energies. It's just not this space. So give you a second to call them in, and then just to settle into your intuition. So this reading may be for you, it may not be for you. There may be certain messages in here for you and certain messages that aren't for you. So get in touch with your intuition and trust Trust your sense of knowing, not what you want to be true, what you fear to be true, but that knowing in your gut of the things that are for you. And then let's also call in the energy of La Luna herself. I love the moon. I have a bit of a thing about the moon, but I think it just, as an entity, as an energy, it's incredible. She's incredible. I tend to gender her as feminine, and I know a lot of traditions do. You don't have to take that. You don't have to gender the moon. But let's call the moon and the wisdom of the moon, and all of the cycles that she has seen and overseen, and let that shine some light and guidance on what we're going to explore today. And then one other thing that just occurred to me before we dive in, I'm a big fan of the app Insight Timer. If you're not familiar, it started as a meditation app. It feels a little bit simplistic to call it that now because there are so many different things that it does beyond meditation. There are courses or all sorts of things. I've been using it for over probably a decade now. And I actually, it's one of the few things I have a membership for, so I find enough value in it to pay for it. This isn't a sponsorship or anything, I just love it. But anyway, there is a teacher creator on there who's one of my all-time favorites. She's based in the UK. Her name is Rachel Hillary. It's Hillary with 2 L's. And she has just really incredible tracks, meditations. She does some sound baths and things as well. But she has a number of them that work specifically with the moon. And she has a waning moon meditation that it's only like 7 minutes long. It's not very long, but it's a beautiful sort of quick, easy practice. It's a little bit of a prayer to the moon for releasing, for letting go of whatever things, people, ideas aren't serving you. So if working with the moon or the moon phases is something you're interested in, I highly recommend checking out her generally, but that meditation specifically. And I hope you enjoy it. All right, that's enough yammering. Let's actually get in. So, what are you? Ooh, the deck is feeling slippy. What are you working on releasing right now? So this deck that I'm going to be using for the tarot, it's the Black Tarot. This is one of my all-time favorite decks. The imagery is incredible. I mean, the quality of the deck is incredible, but the book is like bar none. The level of detail that is in the book, and it's also very community and ancestry and social justice oriented, which I really appreciate. So it's just a really unique read on the cards that even if you've been doing tarot for a while, might be new to you. So, all right, what are you working on releasing right now? Oh, we got 2 that came out. That's interesting. All right, let's get one more. What are you already releasing, or maybe need to get a move on in releasing? Okay. So we have Ace of Baskets, the 3 of Baskets, and the Son of Wands. So baskets are cups in this deck. So that's Ace of Cups, 3 of Cups, and Son of Wands. So Sun is Knight in this deck. So this is interesting because these are 3 cards that, I think generally would be considered pretty positive. So in terms of what you're releasing, I imagine you might have a little bit of surprise. So let's take a look at the Ace of Baskets first. So this is the traits. Oh, here, let me show you. Whoop. Sorry. Here we go. There's the book. Okay, so traits of compassion and intimacy. A man sits on a chair in a field of flowers with one of his ancestors standing behind him with his hands on the seated man's shoulders. The man has been soul-searching, looking for his purpose. He's come to realize that what he longs for cannot be found outside himself. Baskets. Ace of Baskets carries the energy of emotional fulfillment. It indicates an overflow of abundance and peace. Calls for you to live in a way that will build generational peace, compassion, and grace. Time to welcome all that is blossoming and blooming. Okay, so one of the things I love about this deck and this book, the way that it sets things up, and here, let me see, here we go, so you can see. It'll give you the yin and yang energies of the cards, and then how to align with that energy. So in a situation like this where we're talking about, what you might want to let go, you might want to look at sort of almost the reversal energy of the card, which in this case it says emptiness, emotional loss, repressed emotions. So that might speak to you. What I'm getting from this card, though, actually, is if we go back to that piece about soul searching, someone looking for his purpose realize that what he longs for cannot be found outside himself. So I think a lot of us, especially in the digital age where we have so much information, and I'm this is a pot and kettle situation, takes one to know one. I am absolutely guilty of this. We're always looking for the answer. What is the right way, the better way, the faster way, the more enlightened way, the whatever. We're always trying to find that edge, that way of doing it better, faster, more thoroughly. And there is wisdom to be found in that from teachers, from learnings, from tarot, from nature. There are definitely wisdom, elements of wisdom and learning that can be found from outside. But ultimately, those are never the answers. They're only the tools. So I can Google, watch YouTube, read books, go into nature, go into churches, temples. I can get all of that information. It doesn't mean anything until I integrate it and do something with it. And so this piece of letting go, I think, is about stop searching for that answer somewhere else. Stop trying to find your purpose, your fulfillment, your whatever somewhere else. And I think this is really interesting. And this card, actually, I really love the imagery on this, especially the idea of that being an ancestor, braiding flowers into the man's beard. And especially if you identify as a man or masculine, we don't leave much space for men to have that sort of delicacy and tenderness. So I think there's something really beautiful about that image, as an aside. But even turning to ancestors, whether they're living or dead, that can also be a sort of crutch, because it's looking for approval, whether it's wanting their guidance, wanting literally their approval, their permission. So I think this isn't saying to lose the connection. It's not saying to lose the search. It's not expecting those things to give you the answer. It's something you're going to have to do on your own. So, light, nice and easy. Let's take a look at this Three of Baskets, which again is such a lovely image. So the traits for this are collaboration and support. Three women rest on a blanket, enjoying grand food and grander company. They understand that one of the most significant forms of wealth is mutual support. The Three of Baskets is about celebration and reunions, reveling in wins of all levels. So I'm not going to read this whole thing because I actually think there's probably a similar message here. So first, I do want to read the yin energy of this, which is sort of the reversal or darker energy. Isolation, gossip, three's a crowd, or harmful partying. So it could be possible if those are things you're struggling with. Isolation, gossip, partying, maybe a little bit more than you know is good for you. Take that to heart. And again, all of those things, it's not judgment. It's not partying makes you bad. We all talk about people once in a while and maybe say things we shouldn't. That doesn't make you a terrible person. So this isn't about calling you out or judging you. But if when I said any of those things, you got that little that little inkling in your gut, that might be a message for you. But similarly to the Ace of Baskets, I think this Three of Baskets, again, it's in terms of letting go, it's the downside of relying on other people. So communities, whether that is social and civic communities, friend groups, people at work, they can be fantastic supports. Humans are social creatures. We're meant to be with others. So that's not a bad thing. But it can also lead us to go along to get along. It can lead us to groupthink. It can lead us to saying or doing things we might not do if we were on our own. It might stop us from doing things we want to be doing or should be doing because we're not sure how other people might, again, think of it, perceive it. So I think with both of these cards, there's a real message around analyzing the approval or validation guidance that we're becoming a little bit overly dependent on from others, and how that either might not be serving us, might be holding us back. And then I think just one other possible meaning, again, take what resonates. If you have a friend group that in general is maybe not the healthiest. So again, if you're in a situation where maybe you're partying a lot, sometimes those friends that we party with are only the friends we party with, and that's for a reason. Those might not be the friends that are there when we're having a bad day, or when we need to have, real talk. Or it might be friends that just you've outgrown, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. As people grow and change, we don't need or want the same things, and that doesn't necessarily mean you need to cut these people out of your life, though maybe you do. You would know. It might just mean reevaluating your priorities and where you're putting your time. So if you have friend groups that are, maybe not as aligned with you as they used to be, maybe a little bit toxic, maybe just not fulfilling you. Again, it doesn't have to be a dig or a judgment on them to reevaluate if that's where you want to be putting a lot of your time and effort. Okay, last one. Let's take a look at the sun or knight in this deck of wands. Okay. Traits, energy, and passion. A young man is submerged in a glass tank of water being circled by two crocodiles. A crowd watches as he records his daring experience. The Son of Wands recommends keep your eyes peeled for exciting openings that will feed your talents and dare you to be great. This card is a call to take a risk, take a chance, could be a new project, follow a different path and see where it takes you. Again, since we're talking about letting go, I want to look at the yin energy. Conflict, unreliability, impulsiveness, and no boundaries. So the way tarot works, sometimes the messages come out funny. So maybe there's somebody that you've actually been wondering if you need to take a risk, and even though we're talking about what to let go, something about this hits you and you're like, okay, I need to take a risk. But actually what I'm getting again, so here's where I love the wordplay. A crowd watches as he records his daring experience. I literally never noticed, and I've had this deck for quite some time, that there was a recording and crowd situation going on. I always just saw it as this guy alone with these crocodiles. So again, we're back to that idea of people watching, people viewing, doing things for the consumption, the approval, the validation, whatever, of others. So hopefully you're picking up on the theme here. I also think that idea of impulsiveness and no boundaries. So maybe that's something you're struggling with. Sort of flying by the seat of your pants instead of having a plan. So maybe what that could look like is if you have financial goals, you want to save up for a house, an apartment, a car, a big trip, just to get your financial life more in order. But instead of setting a plan and following that, you get a lot of takeout or going out with friends maybe when you shouldn't, doing a lot of online shopping, just not being as disciplined with yourself as you might need to be. Similarly, boundaries, I think that takes us back to the other parties or entities that we're thinking of here. You should have friends. I hope you have family and ancestors that you are in some way in contact with, colleagues, professional community contacts. That is a wonderful, beautiful, necessary part of being human. But part of that is also having boundaries. So some folks in our lives need a little bit firmer boundaries based on how they show up, and that's fine. Other times it's about us and us managing what we need and how much we give or take. And not having boundaries, I think, speaks really interestingly to this image of there's a wildness to this scene. You can't see this full cavern that he's swimming in. You don't know if there are more crocodiles. You just know there are two. He's just sort of floating in space. Like there's just a real undefined vibe there. And so I think with boundaries, that's often the vibe. If we don't have boundaries, it's real undefined. Anything can go, good or bad. And that can take a lot of energy from us, from the other people. And odds are, whatever your goals are, not having any boundaries isn't going to help you get there. Depending on your situation, one of these cards might resonate. All three of them might resonate. If none of them resonate, that's fine too. This is probably not your reading at this point, but of course you're welcome to stay. Okay, so now we've got a little bit of the flavor of what you might be working on releasing. Let's look at your energy, because that has a lot to do with how this is all going to go. So we're going to do one tarot card and one animal card to get a feel for your energy. That one came out pretty easily. The Hermit. Which I gotta say, whether you're already in that energy or you're about to be, like, good on you. That's where you want to be. If these are the things you're trying to let go, over dependence on other people and opinions, lack of boundaries, that hermit, that taking some quiet time, some going inward, being alone. And again, that doesn't mean, this is beautiful. This guy is like out in the desert. I think there are cacti and he's got a lantern, and you don't have to disappear into the desert by yourself. It might just mean pulling back a little bit, less of some of the interactions and input than you might have normally. Because if we think about sort of the ask, what you need to be letting go of here, it's not necessarily, now again, if that Three of Baskets sort of bad friend group thing, if that spoke to you, then that might be more specifically about the people. But I think generally it's not about the people so much as it's about the input. So it's not that you shouldn't be in contact with people and you have to lock yourself away. It's just you might need to reduce how much of other people's ideas, opinions, solicited or not, you may be getting. Okay, Dolphin. This is a fascinating pairing with Hermit, so I can't wait to see where this is going to go. So Hermit, and I will say again, back to this amazing book that I'm obsessed with, the major arcana entries are even more detailed. So traits are guidance and solitude. Man sits alone, realigning with the four elements and the ether. He knows the importance of taking time to retreat, as rest is revolutionary. We all need space for healing, growth, shadow, inner work, and decluttering the mind. That rest is revolutionary gives me another idea, I think. So with this idea of input and sort of people in our lives, it might not necessarily be quite as literal. So in the digital world, sometimes for good, sometimes less so, we are surrounded by the thoughts, opinions, presence of other people, especially in like social media contexts. That can be really loud. So I think of something like this where ancestors might not be, past, dead and gone ancestors. It may be family on Facebook or something like that, where you are in an environment of family or kin or community, and that influences either how you're showing up or how you're thinking. This one was very much about emotional fulfillment and potential. So it could be about the life you're imagining for yourself based on that input and what you're getting. And so that idea of rest is revolutionary in a capitalist society for sure, but especially if you have any marginalized identity, even more so. Prioritizing rest, choosing rest, insisting on rest is revolutionary because it puts your physical, mental, spiritual well-being ahead of your productivity. So that could be something where you are caught up in opinions and other people's ways of living, and you literally just need to tune it out and prioritize rest. It could be rest for rest's sake. I think it's probably more about getting in tune with yourself, because when you've got all these voices, all the noise, either in person, digitally, whatever, it's really hard to hear anything else. Hermit reminds us that we are both guide and seeker, and escape could be what we need to reconfigure our actions to be authentically planted in our truth. Now, if you're called to some literal sort of retreat, getting away for a weekend, taking a pilgrimage, going for a hike in the forest, like whatever that might look like, I think this could definitely be a message to follow that inclination. But again, retreat doesn't have to be a purchase and a commitment. It can be, I'm going to take the day, the afternoon, the evening off. I'm going to light some candles, maybe put on some very quiet ambient music or noise, ideally, silence. And I'm going to be still. It might involve some other self-care, some prayer, some meditation, some sitting in nature. But like that can be a retreat. So when I say, take a retreat, don't think that you have to actually go pay thousands of dollars and go on a retreat, unless that's something you're looking to do, then have at it. Okay, so when the Hermit card is pulled, it is time to consider the following. When is the last time you unplugged? Where do you find your answers? Inside or outside yourself? See, this is what I love about the words. So again, it's not that you don't have connections. It's, are you looking to those connections for answers? And what we're seeing here is, if this is your reading, probably. And a follow-up question to that in here that I really like too is, do you enjoy your own company? If you're not used to spending time alone, especially if you're spending a lot of time around other people, being alone can be really uncomfortable, because you're sort of waiting for that input. I mean, sometimes it's for someone to entertain you, but it's more you're used to existing in a give and take dynamic where there are other factors. And when you remove that, it's all on you. That discomfort isn't necessarily a bad thing. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It doesn't mean you don't like your own company. It just means you might need to figure out what that looks like. So if you're in a situation where you are being a little bit heavily influenced by people, or, you know, again, back to that idea of people that maybe you've outgrown or they're not fully aligned with you, spend some time with yourself and figure out, what do you actually want to do? What do you like to do? If this is a split from like a close friend or a partner, that can be really hard because often your lives are so intertwined, you forget, like, what would I do with this time if this other person or these other people weren't involved? So this doesn't necessarily have to be like a heavy spiritual practice. It can be, if I didn't go out partying on a Friday night, what would I do? What would be fun? Like, do I want to cook? Do I want to order food? Do I want to watch something? Do I want to go somewhere? Like, make it exploratory. Get curious about it. I think with most things in life, when we get curious, it stops being so threatening. So see what comes out for you. Again, I mentioned there's a lot more for the major arcana in here, so I'm going to throw these out in case any of these are synchronicities for you. So the flower associated with this is hold on, I was on the wrong page. That's interesting. No, I wasn't. I was just looking at the wrong side. Okay, bird of paradise, which is associated with freedom, joy, and paradise. The element is the earth. Hermit is usually connected with the Virgo sign. That might resonate. Chakra is the third eye. Yin Yang, quest for enlightenment, knowledge, self-reflection, solitude, self-introspection, and inner guidance. Aligning, do something that scares you, find your anchor. So again, if you've been used to either doing what everybody else wants to do, or looking for others' approval, maybe you need to do something that, and I'm not saying do something you don't want to do, but if there's something that you've been dying to do and haven't because you've been feared other people's judgment or approval, this could be a sign to do that. Affirmation, I take time to understand myself, becoming more conscious and self-aware. I like that because it's gentle. It's not forcing a hard conclusion. You're not looking for one magical, mystical solution. You're just taking time to understand yourself better. And for all of us, I don't care how used you are to being alone, that's a process. So if that's a new process for you, settle in, be gentle on yourself. It is not a fast process. Okay, so I'm dying to see what comes out for Dolphin because, like I said, this at face value is a little bit contradictory. So let's see. Let's read about Dolphin energy. Innately intelligent, healer, light, and blessings. Dolphin obviously is associated with the water element. The gifts of the dolphin are beyond what our human minds can grasp. Dolphin personalities are often drawn to the healing arts as they are sensitive to the subtle and enjoy working on the level of spirit. Okay, I'm getting it now. It's easy for dolphin types to underestimate the impact they make in the world. These creatures play such an important role in the wheel of karma that coming in contact with a dolphin type will change the entire course of your day and thus your life. This card can also indicate a profound blessing is on the way. So when in balance, active healer, strong spiritual practice. When out of balance, underestimates own power to bring into balance like-minded spirits. So dolphin energy is usually pretty social. If you've seen dolphins, they're chatty. They're they travel in pods. Like they're not super solitary. But this energy of being enlightened and focused on healing, I think that is the relevant bit here. Innately intelligent healer. Sensitive to the subtle and enjoy working on the level of spirit. So to be in tune with that subtlety requires a certain amount of stillness. It could be literal, it could be figurative. But if you're constantly surrounded by other people and noise and things going on, you're not going to pick up on the same subtle vibrations as if you're creating quiet and space for yourself. So I think this is saying you actually have this energy, and as it stands, you're equipped to pick up on those things. You just need the quiet and the space to do it. But I think what's interesting, another piece that's interesting here is this idea of underestimating your own power. A lot of times when someone's overdependent on another person, on other people, that comes from a lack of faith or belief in themselves. So that may be part of the reason you've been depending so much on other people. Again, whether it's friends, partners, family, because you're not quite confident in either your abilities, your opinions, your ideas, whatever it is. And this is saying you actually are more powerful than you think. You know more than you think, but you have to trust that. So these cards together, I think, is about making the time for you to hear those inclinations within yourself and then trusting them. And again, that sounds easy. It isn't necessarily. But this tells me you're already equipped for this. It's not something, this isn't what you're gaining. This isn't what's coming out of this process. This is your energy now. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of confidence. It also said, I don't know if you caught it, but that dolphin personalities are often connected to the healing arts. So that can mean a lot of things. I mean, that could be Reiki or energy work. That could be psychology, massage, art. I mean, there are really so many things I think could fall under that healing arts. Medicine, plant or Western allopathic medicine. So if you have some sort of pull toward a healing modality, either because it's something you want to do or something like you want to practice or something you want to receive, I think this could be, sort of a confirmation of that inclination. Okay, so now I feel like we've got some good vibes as for where you're at. Now let's get it maybe a little bit messier pieces of this. So what might be stuck or interfering? Because I don't know. I mean, maybe you're just better than me, but there is not much I can let go on without some sort of resistance. Because if I could just let go of it, like, I would have done it, and we wouldn't be having a process about it. So let's see, what might be stuck or interfering? Four of Wands. I've got thoughts, but we'll get some other cards here before we break it down. So we're gonna get into some of the other decks now. So this deck is the Herbarium Oracle. And I really love this one for energies both positive and negative. So we're going to use this both for what might be stuck and what tools or energies you could lean on. And it's all plants and mushrooms, and just some really interesting bits of both folklore and the medicinal capacities of these. So we have Armillaria malea, which is One mushroom. So we'll take a look at that guy. And then, ooh, it is finally time to bring out the new deck. I'm very excited. So this is, let me make sure I get, yeah, okay. It's just the Southern Gothic Oracle. So this creator, she's on Etsy. Stacy Williams. I may not be pronouncing the last part right. It's literally just NG. But she has a series of 3 decks. I think. Well, I take that back. She's got a couple of decks, but this series, the Southern Gothic, I believe, has 3. And I love the Southern Gothic as a genre, as an aesthetic. So I'm just really excited about this. Okay, that guy wants to come out, so I guess we'll take it. The other thing too that I want to bring up, salamander, with this Southern Gothic deck too. So some of these oracles have really strong senses of place, and I just think that can bring a really unique flavor to things. So if you're in the American South, some of these cards might have a different vibe for you, which is great. If you're not, I don't think, if you have a different read on it, especially one that is more aligned to, you know, your geography and what you may be more closely tied to, lean into that. Okay, so what might be stuck or interfering? So I like thinking of this as, like, again, back to, I love a metaphor, so back to our garden. When you're trying to pull out weeds or anything you don't want there, and you hit like brambles, thorns, cleavers. If I finally, literally just this year, learned what those were called. Apparently in the UK they call them sticky willy, which I absolutely love. But it's this plant that like literally clings to everything, and it clings to you, and you like can't get it off. So that's the vibe here. What is like clinging, sticking, preventing you, or creating some resistance? So the Four of Wands again. So this seems a little bit contradictory at first, because this is usually a card of like harmony, celebration. It's often like weddings, reunions. So that seems like a weird thing to be stuck or interfering. But again, I think if we go back to our initial thoughts here, so I love this image. Let me bring it up closer here so you can see. So sorry, I've got it at a funny angle, and it's upside down, so sorry. Like when I go up, it means down. He's suspended, or he's braced on these 2 beams, and she's suspended in the air. This is a very delicate, interdependent balance. And so I think if we get back to that idea of relationships and the ways in which we can become over reliant, like I think this could very much be a codependent type situation. And again, that could be family, friends, partners. This is, you know, a couple. So I think that if you are dealing with a romantic situation, that definitely makes sense. But some of the things that stand out in the book on this one is the couple are breaking generational curses, building roots and generational wealth, all well grounded in living authentically. So I think this could be something too. So if you identify as a bit of a black sheep, or somebody who is doing things or has done things sort of differently than the family, and I can definitely identify with that. So I feel you. It can be really hard to break away from that particular status quo, because a lot of times your identity, your connections are built into that. And depending on the nature of the family and the situation, um, it can get you ostracized. It can get you cut out. Sometimes you want that, and it's necessary, and it's just a matter of healing from that. But that doesn't make it not difficult. So I think there's something here when you're breaking any sort of generational patterns, whether it's like really deep ancestral stuff or just like patterns of bad behavior or abuse. It takes tremendous strength to do that. And so that kind of, whether it's codependency or just the difficulty of breaking, like I feel like if you imagine the man as your family and you as the woman sort of suspended, it's real hard to extricate yourself from that position. Is it impossible? No, but you're literally suspended in the air, solely holding on to that person and being held up by them. So I think there's definitely something there. The yin energy, scarcity mindset, debt, delays, ungrounded, and emotional instability. So I'm getting less of a sense right now of instability, so much as, again, back to what we were talking about before, not trusting yourself. So he's holding her up, so he has this sort of agency or power in this situation. That doesn't mean she can't stand up there on her own. She's fully capable of standing up and putting one foot on the other side. It's just getting there. So it's not that you're not capable or you're not stable. It just might seem a little bit scary from where you're at right now. Okay, let's take a look at your barium here, and see what plant wisdom we can bring in here. Okay, so Armillaria malea is honey fungus. They're common and well-established mushrooms found on many tables, cooked in the most delicious and imaginative ways. With small heads and long stems, they resemble very useful nails. Nails close, lock, tighten, push, strengthen, build, and support. Likewise, honey fungi bring clear ideas, unhoped for epiphanies about tomorrow. No need to be suspicious. Remember that what one has learned painfully in the past, or the incredible impudence and betrayals one has suffered. Everything is crystal clear now, doubts are behind you, and nothing and no one can destroy your achievements. There's intuition and magic everywhere, nothing strange or dangerous. The painful mist, the thoughts of the past have been nailed to the wall of remembrance. Now you can and should proceed with clarity and freedom of mind, and be assured your decisions will be purposeful and expedient. So I love this. I think it's that idea of fear and looking to the past. So this is saying, stop focusing on the past, stop focusing on the pain, stop focusing on who did you wrong or what you're worried might happen. Those things are firmly in the past, and you are in a position now to move forward and to be successful and trust. Again, we get intuition again. Trust your intuition. I also think it's interesting. So we're about to open the Southern Oracle book for the first time, so I have no idea what this book looks like. But we have these little slug guys on the honey fungi that very much resemble the salamander. So I don't know if that has any significance to you. The number for the honey fungi is 26. The number for the salamander is 3, if those mean anything. Ooh, I can tell you already, I like the look of this book. Okay, so keywords: infinity, reinvention, transformation, underworld. Salamander or lizard is an ancient symbol of infinity, as personified in the Ouroboros, the mythical icon of a lizard eating its own tail. Spotted salamanders like the one in this card appear all across the American South, preferring dark forest habitats. They can live from 12 to 20 years in captivity, and many people do keep them as aquarium pets. Like many of us they're, like many of us, they are presumed to be harmless, but that does not mean they won't get toxic if mistreated. When provoked, spotted salamanders secrete a mildly sticky toxin from their back and tail to fend off predators such as skunks, raccoons, and snakes. Masters of reinvention, their tails regrow if lost. They can regrow organs, tissues, even limbs. This animal is a good one to contemplate when you're feeling diminished or underestimated, which I think could definitely be, especially if we're dealing with more toxic situations. How are you using your agility, quick wits, and survival tools to thrive in the world? You may be small and a bit dotty, but you are a survivor. Your spirit is cosmic and infinite. As much as my cat is chatty. Questions. I'm going to skip this because, again, we're looking at it in a little bit different context. Element is fire. Fire element represents transformation, death, energy, and reinvention. 3 represents creativity and family bonds. There we go. Trinity, also a deeply cosmic number in most spiritual traditions, so 3s are auspicious. So a few things stand out to me for this guy. They can live from 12 to 20 years in captivity, and if they have to, they can regrow tails, organs, tissues, and even limbs. So I don't know, I just really got this idea of like living in captivity and in peril to the point where you have to regrow your organs, your limbs. Obviously for a salamander, that's like an incredible adaptive ability to have. And I'm not suggesting, your family's chewing off your arm and you're regrowing it, but especially when we stay a really long time in unhealthy or misaligned or straight up toxic or abusive situations, we do a version of that. We contort and change ourselves in order to survive that situation, in order to make it work. So I think there's really something here. What might be stuck or interfering, you've adapted to your environment. It doesn't mean you're as happy as you would like to be or as healthy, but you're able to survive it. It's what you're used to. And so that can make it really easy to think that things aren't as bad as they might actually be. But again, what I really love about the energy of this card is, even though the question is like, what might be keeping you stuck or interfering, the energy here is also one of survival and creativity. So yes, there is that element of being trapped, of having to do some unnatural things to survive, but ultimately it's the ability to survive that is coming out. So I think that's really beautiful. Okay, this is probably my favorite. I feel like it's easy enough to figure out what's the problem, what do we need to do. A lot of times we already know what that is, and it's just like a confirmation of, okay, here we go. But it's the practical part of like, yeah, but how do I do that? And like, can a girl get some help? Because this stuff is hard, even when you know what you need to do, even if you know how you're supposed to do it. Like, I don't know. I love the, like, give me the energy, give me the tools, give me the guides. I want all the goodies in my bag. So let's get you some goodies. All right, so we'll start with a tarot. What tools, guides, energies can you turn to for support in this letting go phase? So for the tarot, I'd like to look at energies. So what energy can you lean into that will help you through this process? Obviously, there are a lot of energies available that you could use, but specific to you and the dynamics that you're facing, what leaning in is going to make this either easier, faster, more successful, because, you know, we don't want things to be harder than they need to be. All right, that's a little on the nose, but we'll take it. We've got strength. Okay, so now I want to look at the animal cards again. So this can go a couple of ways. So this could be a recommendation or a call for you to lean into the energy of this animal. It could also be that this animal or the spirit of this animal has the ability to provide guidance for you, and that could be just sort of meditating on it. It could be an animal that, you know, you start seeing either physically or pictures or, you know, representations of. So this can go some different ways. Oh, I do love the whale. So we got another water animal for you here. And also, because I do love the tools and the guides and the things, we're doing all of them. So we're going to do the Herbarium deck. We're going to do another one of the Southern Gothic. And then I've got one more deck you haven't even seen yet. Okay. Ooh, Artemisia absinthium. I think we know where that's going. All right. Southern Gothic. So what tools, guides, or energies will support our lovely viewer as they do this hard-ish? Because letting go is not easy. All right, this one wants to come out. Armadillo basket. That is a new one on me. So we're gonna discover that together. Although I am currently living in the American South, and I've got a lot of family from the South. I myself did not grow up in the South, so that's a new one. I'm excited to see. I mean, it literally looks like an armadillo skin as a basket, but we're going to find out if there's more to it. And then this last deck is the Ancient Stones Oracle, and this is one of my favorite decks for, like, advice and support. I don't know, it always hits right. So for the stones, what tools, guides, energies can you turn to for support? All right. Oh my gosh. This is a deck I've had for a minute, and this card has never come out. Let me see. Can I fit everybody? Let me bump it up here. So we've got Wisdom Keeper. Okay. Let's break it down. Okay, so strength, right off the bat. So even though I pulled a separate animal card here, I do think it's worth noting that we also have an animal on the strength card. So it's a panther right here. There's a woman dancing with a panther. So the panther, cats, black cats may speak to you. I mean, I think they're great generally, but they may speak to you specifically in this context. So traits, courage and strength. Woman communes with a panther, operating in a sustainable equilibrium with nature. It takes courage and power to act in accordance with your heart, mind, and soul. There's no true strength without love. Strength is a reminder that if you stay grounded, you will triumph. She encourages you to be brave. You have what it takes to handle whatever comes your way. Strength card does not call for brute force, but rather for a soft yet firm balance. Flowers, peony, that's what you see in the background. Element is fire. Chakra is heart. Courage, determination, persuasion, influence, bravery, overcoming self-doubt, perseverance. The affirmation, I am a fearless alchemist, able to transform all that is negative into that which is positive. I really love this idea of strength, especially countered to the way we so often see strength portrayed. It's usually brute force, you know, it's muscles, it's military, it's domination. Like, so often that's how we see strength depicted. But again, back to nature as a metaphor. Um, Actually, if you are a familiar and or a fan of the cinematic classic Mulan, the original, I know there's a lot of hoo-ha with the live action one, so I'm not going to touch that. But in the original Mulan, the emperor makes this speech or analogy to Mulan about how I don't remember if he says a mountain or a tree, because I'm thinking of a tree, but I swear he says something about mountain. So instead of butchering it, I'll just explain it the way I was going to explain it. If a tree is rigid, that sort of like brute strength, I'm not going to move, and a hurricane or a tornado or something comes through, the tree will snap. That's it. Like the end. But trees don't. Even in relatively soft wind, if you watch them, they move a tremendous amount. And there's a softness to it because they're going with the wind. They're not totally surrendering to it, but they're working with it. If you're not familiar with Bruce Lee's speech on Be Water, even if you just find the quote, I like the version of him speaking it, but the full quote is incredible because he talks about the strength of water, and how it can fill any container it's in, and what makes water work, what makes it powerful, is that it flows. And so I think there's something here about this idea of strength isn't being a hard ass. Strength, it's finding balance, it's staying grounded, it's staying rooted in what's true to you, but finding some movement in that. And especially when you're dealing with other people, sometimes there is a hard boundary, and that is what it is, and that's okay. But a lot of times humans' relationships are more nuanced than that. There's a give and the take, there's some exploration, there's some figuring out of things. And even if it's not a give and take with a person or a group of people, it might be over time. We often don't make wholesale changes overnight. It's an ebb and a flow. So I think this is really calling you, yes, to be strong, but in a softer way, where you're staying grounded, you're checking in with yourself. This isn't harsh and drastic. But it's also really, again, that idea of overcoming self-doubt, and believing in yourself, especially if you don't normally think of yourself as strong. That might be uncomfortable, but this is saying you have what it takes to handle it, so be brave. Okay, whale. Oh, whale's one of my favorites. Whales in general I think are just incredible, but I really love the whale energy as it is represented in this deck. So the whale is like the highest or most enlightened water animal in this deck. It represents the desire to delve deeper, profound peace, and ancient wisdom. Whale represents profound emotional health and stability. Whale personalities are not afraid of emotional expression or traversing difficult terrain, as they've overcome many challenges in their lives. Experiences have enriched them, given them stability, strength, and a depth that is rare. Usually linked to feminine forces of compassion and communication, we can depend on whale personalities when all else seems lost, and trust them to be a beacon in our darkest hour. Calm, steady, deeply compassionate. When out of balance, heavy slips into old stories to bring into balance regular self-care. So again, like whale, I think there's a lot of that sort of hermit energy. Whales go deep. Yes, they come up to the surface and they breathe, but they go really, really deep. And so don't be afraid of the depth. Don't be afraid to go inside, to really explore some of these things, and that might be quiet, that might be still, and that's okay. I think something else here usually linked to the feminine forces of compassion and communication. So I think the whale pairs really nicely with this version of strength. So it's not the sort of Western hypermasculine idea of strength. It's the more feminine version. And this has nothing to do with your sex or gender. It also has nothing to do with one of them being bad or good. They're just different ways to be strong. This is a softer, more. This sort of strength shows up in relationship with other things and people. You're not bulldozing, you're interacting with. And similarly, the whale, feminine forces of compassion and communication. So this isn't a FUM out, you know? This is, you may end up being out, but this is being grounded and having a conversation and being open and trying to be compassionate. It's coming from that lens. So again, you know, we talked about boundaries and possibly some toxic or abusive situations. If you've got people who aren't respecting your boundaries, if it's toxic, absolutely. If it's abusive, that's not the time for let's have a heart to heart. But again, it still can be the energy with which you approach it. So that doesn't mean you give that person or those people permission to harm you. It means I'm going to approach this letting go with softness and love for my own sake, if not for anybody else's. So again, this is just about the energy to lean into. It's not talking about letting anybody get away with things they shouldn't be or harming you. Actually, I would argue it's the opposite, because it's the sort of wisdom to know what's appropriate in that situation. Okay, number 16. Artemisia absinthium. I'm sure many of you already figured this out. Wormwood. That is what absinthe is made from. It's an herb that casts out devils. The common epithet for Artemisia in medieval times, because it was attested to its magical ability to keep away negative and harmful people and even supernatural beings who wanted to break into peasants' homes to carry out evil deeds. Beautiful and mighty, with an imposing stem and toothed leaves, it populates many folk tales. Hers is the peculiarity of giving off magic when picked while walking backwards. That's incredibly specific. A lunar herb, so that means associated with the moon. Bound to women, is worn in wreaths to propitiate fertility and purification. Tells us of an ancient, intimate, sometimes unresolved knowledge. It's perennial, tells of times past, of attachments, the inability to move on, because it is double tied to what was, to memories, to loves and regrets. Healing the soul is a long path studded with nostalgia, with memory that makes one fall back into indulgence, into the torpor of immobility that gives no way out. You must deviate from the vestiges of the past and take the high road of the future, because that is where you are going, willingly or unwillingly, with the fellow travelers you have chosen or have happened to you. It will not be easy to put your head out of the bag and discover that everything has changed, but at the same time, it's necessary for your evolution. No growth without reflection, no finish line without a real analysis of what you have been and should be. The path of rebirth is the fruit of mistakes made, which must be analyzed and revised so you are no longer beguiled by persuasive reminiscences. So again, we have this idea of like not getting stuck in the past, the sort of danger of nostalgia. I think what's really interesting here, though, is it's not a blind pretend that those things don't exist. It's actually take the time to reflect and analyze how you got here so that you learn from that and don't, repeat those things. And that's not necessarily bad. So I'm somebody that I try really hard not to regret things, and for the most part, I don't. People, situations, because I can look back and see the ways in which they shaped my life and who I am. And you know, some days, some days I'm more okay with that than others, but in general, I fought really hard to get where I am and to be who I am. And even though, yeah, I wish it had come with, you know, some less pain or maybe fewer embarrassing moments, I know that ultimately that wouldn't have gotten me here. So like those things, and if I break it down, you know, you look at like the job that didn't pan out or the relationship or whatever, like I can tell you exactly what I got from each of those things. So I think that's the call here, is not to like look at how bad you screwed up so you don't do it again. It's understand what you gained, what you gave up, and the pros and cons of that, you know, both ways, so that you can choose more intentionally going forward. Because what we're seeing here, you know, in these letting go cards is an over dependence, whether that's actual codependence or, you know, just an over reliance. That's something you don't want to repeat. You know, that's something, everything here is calling you toward trusting yourself, toward being more independent, and again, not necessarily removing people or connections from your life, but learning to trust yourself first. So hopefully this sort of thinking and taking account of things can help you going into future situations go, ooh, I actually have an idea of how this is going to shake out, and either no, I'm going to opt out, or I need to set some different boundaries so that I don't end up with the same outcome. Or, you know, maybe you're keeping some of these folks in your life and you just need different boundaries to manage that. So this is about taking some time for reflection. And again, between the hermit, the whale, it sounds like you're in for a little quality thinking and alone time, and this is sort of helping you figure out what to do with that time. And also, if you're in the northern hemisphere, we are headed into summer. That can be beautiful for some alone time. A walk, a hike, a drive, a swim. You know, like there are literally more hours in the day. And if you're getting a little more sun, that can give you a little bit more energy to do those things. So take some of that extra time. So this doesn't mean that you have to like set everything to do not disturb for a week and, you know, do a silent retreat, unless that calls to you. Incredible. It's just, how can you shift the orientation of your life so that instead of leaning so heavily on other people, other opinions, you're changing that dynamic to focus on you. Okay, I am dying to know about the armadillo basket, because I'm guessing, because this is Southern Gothic, it's supposed to be armadillo. So let's look at the armadillo basket. Number 44, grounding, shielding, protective, shell, collecting. Yeah, I'll show you, just because I can't be the only one that has never heard of an armadillo basket. Armadillos are funny-looking creatures who, like turtles, carry their houses on their backs. Some crafters in rural America take advantage of the armadillo's armor to create taxidermy baskets from the animals' bodies. That's exactly what we thought it was. This card, consider you are a vessel, firm and strong, ready to hold and protect your spirit. There is no question the tough shell of this creature inspires us to be strong, shielded mightily from the bad things the outside world might hurl at us. You know to exercise caution and solid judgment when deciding if it is safe to let your guard down. So again, like back to that same concept. I love when, not just when the cards sing, I've literally never even used this deck before, and it's lining up and it's just delightful. But it's this idea of trust yourself. You are capable of having those boundaries. You are capable of protecting yourself. You are capable of knowing when that is required. Like the armadillo, you're hard as a whiskey barrel. but you're not immortal. There are times in each of our lives where we require greater security, a place to retreat from danger or chaos. Seek inspiration from the armadillo. Put up a strong shield to fiercely embrace the things which are important to you. So I love this idea of protection to not just of your spirit and what's important to you, but again, this idea of protecting space and time for you and your own intuition. So that can, yes, this could be protecting yourself from some of these other influences and their opinions, whatever, but it could also literally be just protecting the time. If you've got an hour that you are spending every morning, every night, every lunch, whatever, to meditate, protect that time. Put your armadillo basket around it. Nothing touches that time. Questions to ask. What am I protecting fiercely? Who am I as a protective force? What form do I take? Earth and numerology, it's the number 8 because 4 and 4 is 8, which is associated with cosmic balance. So again, we're back to balance. I also think this is interesting, though, that idea of who am I as a protective force? What form do I take? And this came right under strength. And I had said with strength, you might not be somebody who normally thinks of yourself as like strong. Like that may not be a way that you identify. And I think this strength card is challenging us to reconceive what strength might look like. And I think our armadillo basket is doing the same thing. Like, you can decide what strength looks like for you. Just because your version of strength doesn't look like other versions of strength or the way it maybe looks in your family or your friend group, your culture, that doesn't mean it's not strong. So I'd encourage you to really not brush that question off and think about, what does it mean to me to be strong? What does that look like for me personally to show strength? Because if you don't know what that looks like, it's harder for you to lean into it. It's harder for you to give yourself credit when you do it, because it's hard. All right, we learned armadillo basket. All right, and another new card. Let's take a look at the Wisdom Keeper. A new perspective, study, and learning. The oldest known rocks on Earth, found in Canada, date back around 4.3 billion years. For comparison, the first humans emerged around 2 million years ago in Africa. So these stones are more than twice as old as that. Mere blink of an eye in the lifespan of our planet's most ancient stones. The stones are wisdom keepers, powerful teachers, healers, and guardians. They preserve, hold, and tell our stories, infused with the wisdom of the cycles. So again, back to the moon cycle. Our ancient stones show us the grace and gift of surrender. In their presence, we're invited to take a different perspective, to shift into humble unknowingness as we wonder how many people like us have they seen come and go? How many civilizations have they stood witness to? And that reminds me of what I was saying about the moon and the many cycles and things she's overseen. Wisdom Keeper card holds ancient knowledge and stories. Many of us have been severed from our ancestral wisdom teachings, but what if it's possible to reconnect with this wisdom through stones that hold the memories? This card invites us to reconnect with some form of study and learning. It may be in the traditional sense, or it could be something more mystical and direct. What are you fascinated by or in awe of? How are you being called to a student life? So I think this one can go so many ways. So again, back to like healing modalities, that may be something that speaks to you. Back to if you are holding back on things that you're interested in or passionate about because of other people's opinions, this could be calling you to look into that. If you're a real nature nerd like myself, it could be more literal. It could be crystals and rocks. Like, it might be actually spend some time with rocks. I know if you're not a real nature-y person, that probably sounds wild, and that's fine. That may not be your jam. But when you slow down and spend time with nature in any form, you will see things, you will learn things. This guy over here is a Herkimer diamond, which is a type of quartz from upstate New York. I just got like last week. I was in Canada recently, and when I was coming back, Herkimer I kept seeing it. I knew this rock, like I knew all about it, but like it just kept popping up. So I was finally like, okay, apparently it's time for me to get one. So I ordered one from Etsy, and the seller chooses them intuitively. So I didn't know what I was gonna get, and it's wild because for like a whole list of reasons I won't bore you with, this stone was like absolutely the right one for me. But I have the weirdest like pull to this stone this week. I've been carrying it around with me like a little kid, like into different rooms, bring it upstairs when I go to bed, bring it downstairs for work. Like I'm not talking to it or anything yet, but I don't know. I mean, it's beautiful. I don't know if it'll focus, but like there's something about the energy of this stone that I feel really pulled to. So I'm not forcing it. I'm just spending time with it, carrying it around, seeing what happens. So if you live somewhere where there are like large rock or stone formations, that might be something that speaks to you. For a lot of people, it might be less literal. If there's something you want to learn more about, maybe it's tarot. This could be calling you to do that. I think there's also something. So I think it's interesting the bit about ancestral wisdom. Many of us have been severed from our ancestral wisdom teachings. What if it's possible to reconnect with this wisdom through stones that hold the memories? So whether or not you're going through stones, going back to like family and ancestors, I think sometimes we can get trapped or caught up in the imperfect human behaviors and qualities of the relatives that we know during their lives. But when we're talking about like our ancestral lineage and wisdom, that's bigger and further back than that. And so, especially if you're in a situation where your family feels limiting, not supportive, toxic, there are things there that don't align with you, it can be really easy to feel like a tree or a plant with the roots cut off. Like you don't have that connection because you don't like the roots, which is totally fair. But that doesn't mean you don't have ancestry. That doesn't mean there isn't wisdom and support and depending on your belief system, like love and presence available just further back. So there could be something here if you do really long for that sort of family or ancestral connection, but the actual kin you've had in your lifetime aren't it. This could be a calling to find another way into that. So stones, for whatever reason, that's coming up. It could be stones, but it could also be genealogy. It could be artifacts. It could be visiting a cemetery. It could be back to the south and like location. It could be just going to the place where some of your ancestors hailed from. So there could be something here inviting you to claim what's yours in that regard and not let not let that be taken from you or spoiled. Okay, I'm sorry. I think this is beautiful, and we still got one more here. So we'll move my rock. Let's see. I can't figure out the best way to make some space here. Does that work? Okay. Last up, we're gonna get a couple more tarot. I was thinking before I started the reading, I added this question because I thought it would be like a nice little dessert. Like you might need a little treat at the end after we did all this talk about letting go. But honestly, I feel like this has been so beautiful and supportive. Like I'm so excited about not just like what you're undertaking, but the strength and energy that you already have that apparently you don't know about, because you seem really incredible. I'm getting a little bit teared up. So like, yeah, the letting go is going to be great, but honestly, I think you discovering all of this about you. That's so beautiful, and I love that for you. So, all right. Anyway, so the dessert. What could this be making room for? So, you're about to clear out all of this nonsense. That feels like a lot of space. I mean, I think I already see some things that could be coming in for you here, but like, what is this making room for? So I'm going to try, my intention is to pull 3 cards with the idea that these 3 cards may work in a sequence. It might tell a story, great. It may also, that may be for some people, and for others, it may be more like a choose your own adventure. Either one of those 3, 2 of those 3 might be applicable, or it's going to be one of those things, I don't know, I feel like the universe loves to give you a hint, but not the full story. So my guess is, for most of you, it's like, these are the 3 things on the menu. You don't necessarily get to know which of them is going to be coming in for you, or which one's coming in first, or when. So let's see. Okay, that seems counterintuitive, but I'm gonna go with it. Actually, I think these are the 3. Okay. Don't get scared if you see this one, because I think I know where we're headed with it. So 3 of Knives, the 3 of Swords. This is often called the heartbreak card, the most heartbreaking card in the deck. Like it's usually a pretty heavy one. But stay with me. So this is a man sits in the chair knitting as it rains outside. He's working on repairing recent emotional turmoil. He was caught off guard, which led to hurt and heartbreak. There's no sugarcoating this card, means loss and all that is painful. This card asks you to release anything or anyone that is weighing your heart down, as holding on to negative energy will continue to burden the heart. So that's very clearly what I see here is like that releasing, which I know seems counterintuitive because it's like we asked there, what are you releasing? What are you making space for? But this is, you are making space to not hold on to that energy. After you go through all of this, you're not going to need to hold that pain anymore. I think back to that sort of analogy of like brambles. Brambles and thorns are constricting and confining, and they sort of trap you. So you're going to make room for releasing that. Again, I also keep getting some interesting things around like gender norms. So I don't know if that is for somebody here, but like here we have a man knitting, which is fabulous. And I feel like we don't see enough men doing knitting and really cool things like that. I know they exist, but like that's not what we see often. And again, like that's come up a few times. So, especially because we were talking about like restrictive opinions and family and friends, if you're someone who has felt in some way restricted in terms of expressing your identity, I think that's something else this could be making space for, which is really beautiful. These 2 are a little bit more what we'd expect to see, or hope to see, I guess, in terms of what you could be making space for. So first up is the delightful 9 of Baskets, or 9 of Cups. Look at this couple. Who doesn't want to be them, honestly? Gratitude, contentment, couple dressed to the nines, standing outside having just returned from a bucket list trip. They haven't reached total fulfillment, but things are good. They walk in comfort knowing their needs are met, their relationship has flow, and they've found peace. It hints at manifestations coming to fruition. This card is also a reminder that you have always been enough and have always been worthy. Bask in the moment, fully appreciate your journey. Dreams come true, enjoying the finer things, financial security, experiencing your heart's desires. This is interesting. Aligning. Detach yourself from posting online about your piece for others to see. Instead, be present in it. So a couple of things going on here. That piece before I forget it. So back to the Son of Wands, like broadcasting his thing, juxtaposed against the Hermit going inside. You're coming into a place, or working on coming into a place, where you don't need that validation. You can know the truth of the thing by experiencing it without needing to show it or get anybody else's approval. And there's just a lot more peace in that. But I also think a couple of things here. So manifestations. So I really think, as much as I was joking about, like, this isn't necessarily the sexy part, that we get from the full moon. I think what this is getting at is whether it is, we've got a couple, we've got travel, we've got financial security, we've got luxury. Whatever manifestations you might want to bring in the future, this is clearing the garden for you to grow those. So it doesn't have to be like this picture specifically, but it is that idea of whatever those wishes are, creating the space that you'll be able to bring those in. But I do think there's something around like ideas, fulfillment, heart's desires, that we had come up with in the first part of the reading around like your ideas, what will fulfill you. So if there's something that you've been like wanting to try, a career, a side hustle, a creative endeavor, something, and you've been holding back, either because somebody won't approve, you think somebody's going to laugh, think it's stupid, people won't like it, like whatever. I feel like this is saying by going through this process, you're creating room for that to thrive. And my guess is it's not that it couldn't thrive now. It's once you separate yourself from other people's energy and opinions and get more in touch with yourself, you'll be able to show up differently to do that thing, whatever it is. So good on you, because you look fabulous, and things are looking good. And then the last thing we could be making room for, Six of Wands, recognition, victory. A woman sits on a horse on a carousel. She's victorious, basking in the fruits of her transformation through the cycles of life. So there we are again with transformation and cycles. This reminds us that our past does not dictate our future. So again, especially if you're breaking cycles, getting out of generational stuff, that doesn't dictate where you're going. Let go of any imposter syndrome that may be creating self-doubt. Again, you're more than you think you are. Share your magic with the world unapologetically. I love this whole deck, but her posture, like she is in some kind of gown on a carousel, and she's just effortless. The confidence in that posture says it all to me. So like, that's the ease that you're looking at. Public recognition is wonderful when earned, but it should not operate as motivation. Spirit really underlining the lesson in case you missed it. Success is still success, even if not recognized by others. This is about owning and harnessing what makes you unique. Completion of a cycle, growth in your craft, enjoying the fruits from transformation after struggle. Transformation. Reconciliation, reunion, and relationships. So I'm not going to say, like, if there's a bad relationship, this necessarily means it's going to reconcile. Like, people and circumstances are too variable for that. But I do think what this is saying is this is about your healing and your energy to be in a place where you could potentially rebuild a relationship on different footing instead of repeating the same old cycle. With any relationship, it takes two or however many people we're talking about to tango. So, this doesn't magically mean the other person is coming back and they're healed and whatever. This is about your energy and the space that you're in. But I really love this idea of after struggle, because I think we definitely got some hints of struggle today, and like for different folks that looks differently. But what this is saying is if you have the strength, whatever that looks like for you, to sit with yourself, to create some space through this process, to reevaluate some of these relationships and redefine them, some pretty incredible things are possible. So that's not to say, like I said at the beginning, before we even pulled cards, letting go, change, they are not easy. They are not always fun, but they are rewarding. And I think that's the energy that I really feel from this reading is like whatever version of these situations fit for you, it may not be pretty or shiny or sexy, the process. And man, I tell you, that's the thing about like inner work that I feel like they just don't tell you about. You can be fighting for your life, like really going through it, changing like thought patterns, generational stuff, and you still gotta like go to work and pay your rent and cook. And like nobody knows what you've been battling. So I think, and kudos to you. I see you. Because it is hard and it's not glamorous. But again, back to that idea of like the stillness and the quiet. There is peace. There is satisfaction. There's a deep satisfaction when you do that work. And it's one that none of this can give. I don't care how much praise, accolades, support, even if it's well-meaning, so even if it's like people genuinely love you and support you, that's beautiful and necessary, I think, in life. It is not the same as you feeling that in yourself by yourself, because that silent battle that is so not cute, nobody else sees that. I don't care how many relationships you're in, how close you are to people. A certain amount of that work is just not visible, and it doesn't translate to language. So even if you try to explain it to your partner, your parents, best friend, whatever, it just doesn't fully translate. So no one is ever going to know the extent of the struggle that you went through. But that means you do. You saw it. You saw every damn thing you went through. You fought every time you changed. You chose something different. You did the hard thing when nobody else knew. You saw that. And so when you get to sit back and look at where you're at and know what you've done, there's a peace and satisfaction in that nobody else can give you, no matter how much they love you, no matter how well-meaning. So I think that, again, this isn't like you're going to end up alone in the desert meditating, unless that's what you want. I'm not going to lie, that doesn't sound terrible to me. This isn't about you becoming isolated. This is about you creating enough space to know yourself and to do things on your own terms, and that creating space, yes, for abundance and success, but more importantly, for a deep peace and satisfaction that, one, you wouldn't know otherwise, but two, to be honest, most people don't find. Because this work isn't cute, is not fun, is not glamorous, is not easy. So a lot of people stay where it's comfortable. They stay where they get that easy validation. But whether you're choosing it or you're being called to it, you got something bigger in store. So I feel like I'm probably just repeating myself at this point, but like I'm so excited for you. And if this spoke to you, if you're starting on this journey, or you're already in the thick of it, would love to hear about it, and just sending you so much love and support, as you go through it. And again, reiterating, if you're at all inclined to meditation, because that seems to be coming up a bit here, um, check out resources like Insight Timer is my favorite, and Rachel Hillary in particular, is somebody I really love on there. I'm sure, I'll share some others in the future, but that might help you get in touch with the moon. And I'm just realizing, I know I said I was done, but both of these cards, all of the major arcana in this deck, have the moon phases on them. So again, I think if you're at all inclined to work with the moon, and like if that feels too woo for you, sit outside and look at the moon when it's out. Like, it doesn't have to be deeper than that. Like, meditating can be just like trying to quiet your mind and look at the moon. That's it. So yeah. Anyway, thank you for hanging out. I realize this was a bit of a long one, but I can't help it. You just had some really, really juicy stuff. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you next time.